When you first move to Australia, everyone sounds weird. It's like they're speaking your language, but you don't really understand them. But the weirdest thing is, after a year of living here, I've started to sound like them too. Not in my accent, I'm obviously quite proudly British, but I've kind of started to copy their words, because they're better. G'day there guys, how's it going? My name's Ross and last year I moved from the UK to Australia with my family to start a better life. Our channel's all about moving to Australia, assimilating into the Aussie culture with the hope of helping and inspiring you to make the move yourself. Now the first word, I kind of thought it was food anyway, but I wasn't really sure what kind of food it was. They've already got loads of different names for food. And in the UK we'd normally call it Mickey D's, but here Maccas just makes more sense. In fact it makes so much sense that McDonald's even recognises that it's just called Maccas. They even use it in their branding. Now the name Maccas is so influential that in the UK I suppose I was a bit of a Maccas snob and I didn't really go there very often except for the festive menu. I do actually really miss that. But generally speaking, Maccas was only something that I used when I was hungover or in the need of food because there wasn't any other alternatives around. But in Australia, Maccas is so inviting that I just find myself drawn to it. Or it could be just the fact that there's loads of them around and they're frickin' everywhere. And despite the amount of Australian alternatives to fast food, I still find myself drawn to a lovely Maccas. And in Australia, if you use any other word than Maccas for McDonald's, you're gonna get some weird looks. Now the next word, I kind of thought that it meant stealing. And then after it was used a few more times, I wasn't really sure and I was wondering if it was another word for being horny. But it turns out if you're sick in Australia, you're feeling a bit crook. Now thankfully I don't find myself feeling a bit crook too often, but I have been crook in the belly, feeling crook, or just kind of crook in the head, which doesn't sound too good, does it? Now the alternatives to feeling crook, saying you're feeling a bit sick or you're feeling a bit ill, it's just a bit serious. Like if you're feeling a bit crook, I suppose it could be serious, but it doesn't sound half as bad. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be feeling crook for too long. You just want to get better. Now the next word is not for me at all because I don't actually do them, use them. It's a terrible habit. And I had to be honest that when I first heard this word, I had absolutely no idea what people were talking about. What the frickin' hell is a durry? Like, a curry? Is it something you eat? I mean, I know you put it in your mouth, but just the connotations of having something to eat was quite strong for me. But no, a durry is like a ciggy, a fag. Are you even allowed to? It's 2021, are you even allowed to say that anymore? I just like durry because it seems to be so unoffensive. I'm going out for a durry. It just has that feeling of I don't care. I don't care that I'm inhaling toxins into my lungs for no apparent reason apart from looking good and feeling cool. But it just has so much of that I don't care attitude that you have to find it endearing. I think I only really figured out the word durry when someone said they were going out for a smoko, and that just means a break. You don't even have to smoke. Not many people here smoke because it's so expensive. I suppose it's a good idea. Now the next one I suppose could link to the last two. If you turned up at Centrelink one day and you were asking people why they were there and what they were doing, but a bogan I suppose is a UK version of a chav, or is it? That's what someone tried to explain to me as kind of a substitute version, but after looking at what people in Australia think are bogans, it's kind of different to a chav. Personally, I'd liken a chav more to an esche, which is a whole new breed of weirdo in itself. But a bogan is actually quite endearing. Some people would say that I'm bogan for cracking open a can of 4X, and I guess I am. But the fact of the matter over here of being a bit bogan is kind of like a way of life. I love this country for the lack of classes and high society status. To be a bit bogan is just to be a bit Australian. And I suppose if you spend enough time here anyway, there's going to be a bit of bogan in all of us. After all, who wants to be classy anyway? When I first saw some pictures of bogans, I just thought it looks a bit like that series called Shameless that we used to have in the early 2000s. And I really like that. Here's to bogans. Well, not like full bogan. I don't think I'd be full bogan, but being a little bit bogan, I suppose. Is that a good thing? Now the next one, I guess I don't really use enough, but I love using it in just general conversation. And that's because normally when I turn up there, I'm just buying fuel. But servos in Australia are just another realm. And compared to the UK, servo over here just seems to be full of cheap stuff. Now don't get me wrong, my go-to is normally either a coffee or a slushy. No, they don't even call them that anymore, do they? Slurpee. The single best things that you can buy for $1 or $2. You can just find anything in a servo. The only thing I wish that living in Queensland is they'd serve beer. How convenient would that be? And then to add a drive-through onto them. They already got them. Now this last one really is a word that I loved to hate. When I first arrived in Australia, I thought, why would you shorten it to this? I mean, most of the shortenings in Australia actually do make sense. and they're worth using, like Maccas. But when I first heard the word Arvo, I shuddered to my core. Oh, don't worry, I'm going to do it this Arvo. Just say afternoon. But actually after 6 months, I found myself using Arvo. I love the Arvo. The Arvo is the best part of the day. Things start to cool down, so it's more tolerable. But you get the sunset in the Arvo. You finish work in the Arvo. Unless you're an absolute bogan, you can have a beer in the Arvo. Also, with my personality, I know that with other British people, using the word Arvo probably makes them shudder to the core as well. And let's face it, I want to be an Australian now, so Arvo it is. So whether you're watching this video in the morning or in the Arvo, smash that like button, and it's a cheers to a better vocabulary. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the rest of our channel, and if you want to see how we've become even more Australian, well, have a look at that video. Just go on, do it. Yep, right now. Thanks.